everyone, I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to the Big Eye Sports Podcast here on USBN Sports. Again, we're in the studio, which we absolutely love. And we said earlier in the year we had our first podcast of the year with Loopy, and it was great to get a hold of her. But this one I know we've been trying to get for a very long time. I tried to get it with Mike Strunk, who I used to work with, and his son Dalton played with Rick Haynes. And so we're just really excited, Steve, to have Rick join us. And, class of 1979. And I know, as a former Anderson player, I always heard about Rick and the accomplishments he had, and obviously getting his jersey retired. But what a great athlete Rick was.
Well, we keep saying this about living legends, And we had Pat Tabler on, now we got Rick Haynes. How lucky are we, Danny, to be doing this? All these guys we've looked up to, and all the accomplishments they've had over the years. I mean, some of the stuff we're going to talk about with Rick is just incredible, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, it really is, and it's nice to have go Pat Tabler, Rick Haynes, and just to keep the ones that we keep going. So as I said, joining us is Rick Haynes, and Rick, thanks for joining us.
Sure, well, I appreciate you having me.
So let's go back to the days growing up at Anderson. Talk about where you lived, and what was it like growing up as a kid in Anderson?
Well, I mean, it was really nice. Like we talked about earlier, I grew up in Centerville up till the 7th grade, and then we moved down here up off Little Dry Run, right by Wilson Elementary. Enrolled in Turpin Middle in January of whatever it was, 73 or 74, halfway through my 7th grade year. In Centerville, they did not have middle school sports. They just had intramurals. So there was no going around and playing Beaver Creek or Fairmont or anything like that. So I played church basketball. and so when we moved in, my dad just called the coach and said, hey, can he try out for the team? We just moved here, and Coach Enright, who was a legendary junior high coach, allowed me to come out and play. So I played about the last 6 or 7 games, 7th grade basketball, and obviously rolled into 8th grade.
That's awesome.
Wow. So your 7th grade year, you said, is when you moved in? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And then you went on to, what other sports did you play at the middle school level?
Just football, basketball, and then ran track.
Okay. All right. So as you were growing up, I mean, did you live anywhere else before Centerville?
Lived over off Evendale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So till 2nd grade, and then moved to Centerville for 5 years, and came back.
Okay. Was there any other sports that you liked, or was it just the basketball?
Just the football, basketball, baseball.
Yeah.
Just a typical kid. In the fall you played football, and in the winter you played basketball, and in the summer you played baseball.
Yeah. Well, all right. So when you were in 7th grade, was it still just one high school at the time?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the questions, we've had some other guys on in a similar type of era. What was that like, knowing, maybe you hadn't been ingrained all the way up since you had just moved in your 7th grade year, but what was that like in 7th grade? You're thinking all these guys that you're seeing playing at Anderson, all of a sudden now, your buddies you're going to be playing against. Because you were like one of the first ones to do that.
Well, I can remember going to basketball games and watching Kevin Galbraith play.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark Reed and Rick Becker and Rick Elliott. And I thought Coach Sanders was a great guy.
Yes.
And so, I was in awe sitting there in the stands. Watching Kevin Galbraith, I just thought he was just such a tremendous player, and watching those guys. But, I never really gave it much thought, because I knew when we moved, they told us from the start, you live in this attendance zone, you're going to be going to Turpin.
Yeah.
And so, now obviously it's so much different today, being a high school football coach, and parents getting involved, and kids moving and transferring to schools, and the under the table recruiting that goes on.
Yeah.
It's just really frustrating.
Yeah. Well, one of the things,
the thought of ever abandoning my high school teammates never would have crossed my mind.
Absolutely.
And then on the other end of that, it's something that Danny and I have always talked about for many, many years is, oh man, what kind of team would, Anderson have had, or Turpin, if they were to combine school, or if they would have stayed together.
They would have stayed together.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You can go on down the line, like the one famous Anderson-Turpin football game to go.
Yeah, the state championship.
Imagine those two teams if they were combined.
Right. I was at that game.
Yeah, so was I.
Incredible.
Right on the field.
It was a great, at Princeton.
Yes, exactly. So that's a legendary game.
But so I remember, I lived in Lakota.
Okay.
And I still do. And I was there when they voted to split Lakota. Greg Bailey was the head football coach at Lakota High School, and I saw him because we played against each other. I was coaching Nicole Rain, and so I saw him at a basketball game or somewhere before the vote, and he said, "Are you going to vote for the levy to split the schools?" And I said, "Well, absolutely." He said, "What do you mean it's going to water down our football team?" and I said, "Well, Greg, as a parent and even as an educator, how can you not vote for it? You give twice as many kids opportunities to participate.
Sure.
I mean, you get twice as many kids playing football. You got twice as many kids in the band. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right.
So I just don't know philosophically. And Greg's a good guy. He coached my son, and I really like Greg, but Greg had no kids. So I think as a parent, it changes your mind.
Absolutely.
And your mindset. Because, I wouldn't want my kid going to a high school that's got 6,000 kids and may never get a chance to get on the field.
Right.
Yeah.
So
holy cow.
That's a great point. Talk a little bit about, the games that, you played, the playing McNick and Anderson, and what do you remember about those matchups?
Well, I remember how intense they were. And I remember, obviously, you had King of the Hill, and it was kind of like the Commander-in-Chief trophy. And you obviously wanted to win that. There was no trophy that I remember, but obviously you just had bragging rights.
Right.
Those were great games, and you didn't really know. At least me personally, I didn't know very many kids from McNick, but obviously with the proximity, and I knew them because I played basketball, and obviously back then I think you had more kids who were multi-sport athletes.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that kind of frustrates me sometimes is kids just want to specialize.
Right.
And,
right.
It's just so stupid. You get one shot. You might as well play as many as you can. So those were always intense. I remember the junior year, the Anderson game, we both weren't very good. And I think we won, I think it was week 10 we won. So we won our first game against Milford, and then we lost 8 in a row and won our last game against Anderson.
Well, and one of those too, let's get into this for a little bit, was we talked about it earlier here when we were doing our documentary, but that Rick ran for 300 yards against Anderson.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that, what that was like, running the ball like crazy against the old Anderson Redskins.
Well, we only had about 3 plays on offense. So, well, 6 if you count 3 to the right and 3 to the left. So I don't know. Like I talked about, I was just very fortunate. We had a good team. I think we were 7-2-1, and had some really, really good players and some really good offensive linemen, and had a really good fullback who blocked. And so I was just very, very lucky.
Well, before we get back into the football, I want to talk a little bit about your basketball career, because one of the things that and Rick helped me out here is that I'm not sure too many people can say this, Danny, that I believe Rick's senior year he led the city in rushing and was in the top 10 in scoring in basketball.
Wow.
Can you back that up, Rick? Is that true?
I don't think that's true. I love basketball, but I don't know that I was in the top 10 in scoring.
All right. Well, so one of my sources was one of your coaches, Dan Bartholomew. He coached with Wally, and his mind is unbelievable how much he knows. And he wasn't quite sure in the top 10, but he thought that you scored in the 20s, and your senior year you had gotten mono or something, and you had to sit out for a little bit.
Yeah, I had missed 7 or 8 games.
Yeah, so that kind of affected things. Otherwise, it might have been a little different. But
how about Bart remembering he had mono?
Yeah,
I mean, who remembers that stuff?
I didn't even remember that.
No, it's unbelievable, and we're going to interview him on Monday. But I mean, to have that type of accomplishment, Danny, is unbelievable.
It really is. I mean, to do both those, I don't, Steve. There's no way in heck that we could have done like that.
Well, I mean, and to Rick's credit, Bart told me on the phone today that Rick was by far the best athlete to ever go through Anderson, and Bart would know because he was there at the beginning and he's seen everything since then. So look at what we're talking to here.
Now, my sources told me that they had a guy teaching in the middle of a field, and they just built a school around him, and it was Dan Bartholomew.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's true. That's
exactly right. That's good. I like that.
That's true.
So talk about playing basketball there at Turpin, and at that point in time, it was still relatively new as far as the school being open, and who you played with. Well,
I played with some really good players. Jim Whitesides was a great player. He ended up going to the Naval Academy and playing. A guy behind me, a guy named Butch Nimmo. Who his dad was a great player at UC, and Butch was a great player. He went down and played at Middle Tennessee State. And was on the team that beat Kentucky in the first round of the
I forgot about that.
playoffs. So, we had some good players. And I just thought the world of Coach Watterson. I really liked, we called him Wally.
Yep.
And so it was. We had a nice team, and we had some really good guys. The guys ahead of me, Kevin Keefe and Rick Anderson.
Yeah.
And, it was just a good group of guys.
Yeah, that had to be fun playing back then. And we have to say this every time is that you scored in the 20s, and that was before the 3-point line.
Yes, it was. But, it was just so weird. Like our sophomore year, everybody was, because they knew we were going to get in the Hamilton County American.
Yeah.
So we had our schedules already set the next year. So that first year we had a team, even in football, they were all basically 1-year contracts. So, we went out and played Manchester.
Oh wow.
When I was a sophomore in football, and they weren't very good, and they had never seen a high school team kick extra points.
Really? No kidding.
So we're after the game, and they're asking us, "Hey, did the Bengals come out and show you how to do that?" And so,
how about that?
And the same thing with basketball. We played Lynchburg Clay and Preble Shawnee and Hillsboro.
Making the road trips.
It was some bus rides were just unbelievable. So, it was different.
That's crazy.
That had to be fun, though.
So let's get back into the football side of it. We talked earlier, but to talk a little bit about the influence that Coach Berta had, because I believe you played for Coach Berta, correct?
I did play for Coach Berta, and he's the reason I'm a high school football coach today.
Wow.
He was a great influence. He was just a good man and did things the right way and didn't cut corners and was honest and had integrity. And so, I thought the world of Coach Berta, still do.
Yeah, and we talked about the one record that ran for 300 yards, but looking this morning, I was just doing some research on there. He's got quite a bit more records on there that he probably wants to admit, but he's on there up and down, and that's saying something with the offenses that they have now at Turpin and what they've done, and he's still on a lot of those records.
Absolutely, it's incredible.
Well, I'm just lucky they like to throw the ball, so that's
because you ran the ball.
And they had some great. They've had some great players. Like I talked about Reese Evans. Reese was he was an outstanding football player when we played him. I don't know 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And they had a really, really good team.
Yeah. So Danny already kind of touched on this earlier, but with the rivalry games of playing, especially McNick and Anderson, whether it be the football or basketball. I can only imagine how packed the gyms were back then. For those games, but for football too. That was like, you might as well close up Beachmont Avenue because everybody was at the football games for those games.
It was just exciting. Same when we played McNick. I can remember playing McNick in basketball and we beat them. And I was walking across the gym floor in my hush puppies from that.
Love it.
Their AD, I think his name was Quinn. He just
Pat Quinn.
He just started ripping my ass because I was on the gym floor in street shoes.
Oh my gosh, really?
Oh, and I'm thinking,
wow, whatever.
If we had lost, you probably wouldn't be yelling.
Right.
That's fun. That is fun. Let's get into the recruiting part of it for you. After Turpin, talk a little bit about how that whole recruiting process worked for you and where you end up going.
It wasn't that big a deal. I ended up going to University of Dayton. It was Division III football. Really, the only other school I really thought about going to was Wittenberg, and they were going to let me try to play both.
Really?
Yeah, I played football and basketball, so that was the only other. And had a good friend and ended up going to Wittenberg for a couple years and playing football. But UD was just a good choice. The size of the school and the proximity, and they were good. And so, I was fortunate in 1980 we were 14-0, won the national championship.
Wow.
And then 81 we were 12-2 and lost in the finals. So I was fortunate to play on some good teams there too.
Did you run there too?
No, I played receiver there.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. And I think, didn't you say that earlier talking about net? Did you meet? Was that Kerry Combs was there too as well?
Yeah. So Kerry and I played against each other because he played at Coleraine, and then we played together for 4 years at UD.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. So
talk about the coaching. I know you're coaching now at Lakota East. Talk a little bit about how that all materialized and how you got into coaching.
Well, I was Coach Berta, and him, and there was another guy that was on our staff for 2 years named Steve Clowney, who left before my senior year to go to Moeller and coach. And so I still keep in contact with Coach Clowney. But those guys obviously were a positive influence on the whole school, I thought. And so that's the reason I got into high school coaching. And I've been very fortunate to be able to coach some really good players too.
Didn't Clowney come back and coach at McNick?
Yeah, he did.
He came. Yeah, they kind of got rid. Well, he got fired at Moeller or whatever. However, the circumstance, he got a raw deal.
Yeah.
And then he came back and coached at McNick.
Wow. So how long have you been at Lakota East now?
Since 2010.
Okay. That's incredible. Now, do you teach there, or what do you do?
I am the Dean of Students.
Dean of Students.
Yep.
Nice. And you live up there?
Yep.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you live up there. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
Yep. So I have a son who's, he'll be 31 in February. Golly.
You say it like that.
You know what? Some of the best memories I have right now is he taught and coached with me at East for 5 years.
Really? Oh, that's great.
So that was obviously a tremendous experience being able to work with your son.
Yeah.
And he was a great young coach and decided to move to Denver. Got a job for a software company. So he's living in Denver. I have a daughter who's athletic trainer at Alabama Birmingham.
Oh,
wow,
cool.
nice.
So she works with Scott Springer's son.
Oh, yeah.
He's the trainer for the football team.
Yeah.
And she has the women's basketball and women's golf.
That is cool.
No
And
kidding.
then, I have another daughter who works for Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So
That is-
Wow,
that is
that's
awesome.
great. So, and then another person you guys were talking about who coached with you was Chris Newton, the athletic
Yes.
director at Anderson.
Oh, they don't come any better than Chris.
Nope,
I mean,
not at all.
We can't say that enough.
He is one of the finest men you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And he was a great coach. He was a great football coach. He was a great baseball
Yeah.
coach. Chris is just, he's outstanding.
Well, he's a very loyal guy, and I played baseball with him growing up, and I've known the family and everything. But when he was at Coleraine and the baseball position had come up into Anderson, I was like begging him, please come home. And he's got all these kids that are young still in his house, and he's driving 45 minutes to Coleraine. I'm like, come home. And he almost didn't want to do it because he was so loyal to
Right.
Coleraine.
Does he still, I don't know, does he still live in Sherwood?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The rough streets of Sherwood, Florida.
That's right, buddy.
No, he's hands down. We say it all the time, and I know we're a little bit biased, but hands down, I think he's one of the best ADs in the city, Cincinnati.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt. The guy I worked for at Lakota, Rich Bryan, he and Chris are probably the two best. Because they just, their work ethic and their integrity, and Chris is just outstanding.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong on this. I thought that Chris, when he first came to Anderson, he was there for the 2008 team that made that run to the state finals. I think he coached the 1 year when they went to the state finals, I thought.
Really? I don't know.
What year was Kerry gone? 2007?
Kerry left 2006.
So I think he might have came
then
in 2008.
I think Chris coached one more year at Coleraine in 2007.
Okay.
I think he made 1 year
When they went to the
when
finals
they went to
and
the
lost.
finals and lost.
Is that
And
when
then
they
he
had
was
Kyle Strader or Slater? Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a football coach right there.
Yeah. Pretty good running back right
He
there.
does all that stuff. Well, hey, but real quick before we get into this other our final segment here is talk about your team, Lakota East. You're in a very tough conference, that the GMC. Talk a little bit about those battles that you have every week and what you expect out of your team next fall.
Well, it's, I think, obviously I'm biased, but I think it's the best conference in the state of Ohio, just from top to bottom. In the last couple years, the coaching has gotten better. Oak Hills has hired an outstanding coach in Justin Roden, and Scott Detill at Sycamore, I think, is one of the best coaches around. And obviously, Coach Bolden going the West really made them better because they've always had great players. And so Tommy's got them going in the right direction. And Colerane's always going to be Coleraine.
Right.
And I think Princeton, when they hired Andre Parker, I thought they made a great hire. So it's just a battle every week.
Right.
And you can't, there's nobody that you can go out there and just roll your helmet out and think you're going to beat them. And so, it's fun to compete like that. It's a grind, and you just got to hope you stay healthy and just battle, because it's physical. I mean, it's so much different than 40 years ago when I played.
Absolutely.
I remember walking into the weight room at Turpin. There was a universal, and I thought, oh wow, this is really cool.
In a little closet.
Basically. Rick, that's funny, because we've talked about it several times on some of the guys that we've had. Like when I first started playing at Anderson, I don't know if you remember where the basketball locker rooms were. Across the hall was a little closet, and that was the weight room.
It was half this size.
I mean, it was barely had anything, and that's what we did. And one of the first things that Coach Soriano did was there was like a maintenance garage, and he said that's going to be our weight room. And they had the weight room there, and then up above he had an office. He made an office up above, and so that was one of the first. So it's just amazing how much weights have to do with kids nowadays.
Yep, they're so much bigger and faster, and I had no idea. Just the nutrition aspect of it too.
Oh yeah.
I remember going to Arby's for pregame meal.
We got a Ponderosa, the old Ponderosa.
Let's ask about that, Rick. So back when you were in high school, where was the go-to place for you after games?
Oh, the Roses.
There you go.
What about Frisch's?
No. Well, the only time I go to Frisch's is when our assistant principal would give out those coupons.
And we got them in the summer at the camps.
You get a big boy and a milkshake.
That's right.
Oh,
that's right.
That's fantastic.
But the La Rosa's was when the old gray building that was like really close to Beachmont.
Yeah. It would be packed. Packed.
After every game. Yeah. And like we would play Frogger going across Beachmont trying to get there. I would kill my daughters if they try to do that now.
So that was that McDonald's. McDonald's was the big one for us back in high school.
Well, it was if you couldn't get a seat at La Rosa's, then you went to McDonald's.
Then you went back. That's right. Then you stood in line for the phone booth. Call for a booth.
Unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
So much has changed.
Or we'd go down to Pete's, which is now the Anderson Township Pub.
Oh,
down there on
really?
Clough.
Yeah.
It used to be called Pete's.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then I remember the locker room.
Well, before that, it was called Shakey's Pizza.
Yeah,
remember that?
I remember locker. Yeah,
locker room was awesome.
God, that's crazy. So I guess the one thing I want to know is, you think there'll be ever a possibility that you will play in Anderson or Turpin again on your schedule?
I don't think so, because our league schedule
just went to 9 games. That's right.
So we only have one non-league game, and I think I don't know if their league is now 10 teams or what.
They can only do 1 or 2, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
it's changed too.
We played Loveland a couple times, and we had a 2-year contract with Turpin, but because of COVID, we didn't finish it.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were supposed to come out to Turpin, whatever that was, 2019.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been. But I don't think that will happen, just because.
Of course, Rick never played at Turpin on their
That's
field.
True. Played at Anderson.
No, we practiced up there.
Yeah, it was just a practice field then.
Oh,
isn't it crazy they got a field now?
We'd walk across that field to pick up the rocks before we'd practice.
Oh my gosh, is that right?
Oh yeah, it was just
brutal.
Brutal. And then by the end of the year, it was just dirt.
Right. Oh my gosh,
that's pretty cool that they got their stadium now.
Yeah, and McNick too.
It's a nice set. Yeah, McNick's got a really nice setup.
Because for years, it was
Anderson.
There was always 2 games every weekend. Either Anderson was playing home or Turpin was playing home, and then McNick was playing at home on Saturday. So by the 5th game, it was all dirt.
Yeah.
Plus, you had soccer on there too.
And soccer.
You're right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's get into what we do at the very end. Is maybe give us your favorite memory from high school, maybe college, and then if you had a favorite teacher or anything like that.
My favorite memory from high school has got to be the first time we beat Anderson. In 76 when I was a sophomore.
Okay.
Because nobody thought we were going to win.
Right.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys were all young, right?
We didn't have any seniors.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that's something?
That is crazy.
So,
and you ran probably for 300-some yards.
No. I think the score was 20-6.
20.
Yeah, we can look it up.
It's over there. It's right there, 20-6. So,
there's the proof.
Favorite teacher? I had a lot of great teachers.
Yeah.
Obviously Coach Berta was one. There was a guy named Mr. Dever I really liked. Turpin was a great school with some great teachers. College would be winning the national championship.
Of course. Who'd you beat in national?
We beat Ithaca College.
College. Wow.
Yeah, 63-0. So
in the championship?
Oh my gosh.
We had a really, our coach was outstanding.
Who was?
A guy named Rick Carter. So then he left and went to Holy Cross. and had a couple really good years. It was really tragic. So he goes to Holy Cross, has a couple good years. He tries to get out of his contract back then.
Right.
They wouldn't let him out. Both his parents, if I remember right, got cancer. He was from Kettering, so he was flying back between Boston and Dayton, taking care of his parents. They wouldn't. I mean,
That's crazy.
He ended up taking his own life. It was really sad.
Wow.
So
that's sad. That is sad.
That was really sad.
That is unbelievable.
So, but UD was a great place. I mean, it was.
Yeah,
it still is. My daughter graduated from there. It's an outstanding place.
That's cool.
Yeah,
and she went there too.
Yep.
And you said she's a nurse?
No, well, Katie's an athletic trainer.
Okay, the trainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now Emily's the one who went there. She works for Johns Hopkins in their public health.
Okay.
She helps women get child care or prenatal care over in Africa.
Oh, wow.
That's
How about
awesome.
that?
That's awesome. So just one real quick thing is we always talk about how Anderson's a special area. You see same similarities between Lakota area and Anderson, and what makes Anderson so special? I guess
the thing that I would prefer, the thing I like about Anderson and Turpin is just the size of the schools.
Right.
I mean, because Lakota's huge.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We got 2,100 kids in our building, and that's just 10 through 12.
Oh my gosh!
And the freshman campus is across the street, and there's another 650 to 700.
Sure.
When I my first teaching job in Cincinnati was at Loveland, and it was a nice. There were 700 kids, and you got to know everybody. And so that's the thing I like about Anderson and Turpin. I hope they don't combine them. I hope they keep them about the same size.
Yeah.
And because I just think there's something special about going to school and walking down the hall and knowing all your classmates.
Yep, I totally agree. So, well, Rick, we really appreciate coming out here, joining us in studio. It's always cool when we can have everybody in the studio. So we really appreciate
you having me.
It's really
been a
cool.
lot of fun.
Big fan. I know Steve and I will be watching your games, checking out your scores, and I might, now that I've got your text message, I might have to critique you if you get interviewed on TV.
That's fine.
Well, good luck to you, Rick.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So for Steve Ellis, Dan Albers, and Rick Haynes, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you next week.